Well, there are calls for the board of Australia's largest Aboriginal legal service to be hosed out and replaced with competent directors after it was revealed they knowingly appointed a chair who had abused his pregnant partner. Hugh Woodley, who became the head of the board of the North Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency in March, served a 12-month good behaviour bond and was fined over a 2020 assault. Joining me is Shadow Minister for Indigenous Affairs, Jacinta Nampijinpa Price. Senator, thanks for being with me. Can you first explain for viewers what this Aboriginal legal service does, and then give me your thoughts on the appropriateness of Hugh Woodley continuing as its chairman?
Well, as the Territory's leading Indigenous legal service, they provide support for Indigenous Territorians facing court. As it stands, there have been many who have been unrepresented before the courts as a result of NAAJA's failings. Recently, in February, in the February estimates, there were around 75 unrepresented Indigenous Territorians, 21 of those in remand. As recently as last week during the estimates, we discovered that there were another 16 unrepresented and another 6 on remand. So these are vulnerable Indigenous Australians whose first language often is not English, so it's hard enough for everyday English speakers to really understand legal speak in the justice system, but we're dealing with people whose first language is not English. So this issue has been ongoing for some time in terms of the fact that they haven't been able to provide for, especially those here in Alice Springs. Out of 17 positions that are vacant, there's only been one lawyer available for the whole Alice Springs and surrounding area.
And this is a agency that's getting, $20 million a year in taxpayer funds to provide this service that doesn't sound like it's being provided.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, with this recent appointment, I think the Attorney General needs to come out and tell us whether they've in fact breached their requirements under their agreement, which is provided for the National Legal Assistance Partnership that the Commonwealth provide these millions of dollars to them to provide these legal services to vulnerable Indigenous Territorians. So the Attorney General really needs to make some tough decisions here and stop allowing for this situation to fester.
Now, the current chair of the organisation, Hugh Woodley, he's got a conviction for domestic violence, which included standing on his pregnant wife's stomach. The board knew of this conviction when they appointed him as chair. You're saying that he needs to be removed?
Look, so apparently there wasn't a conviction recorded against him.
Sorry, you're quite right, yes.
He did plead guilty to this charge, and they're trying to justify this to say that it's an historic incident, when in fact 2020 isn't really that long ago, and they're also suggesting that people should be able to get a second chance, and yes, perpetrators should be able to rectify their circumstances and have a second chance, but not under these circumstances. I mean, the NAAJA they require a high standard of people in leadership roles, especially when we've got the highest rates of domestic and family violence faced by vulnerable Indigenous Australians, particularly women. And it's just a terrible decision that the board has made to appoint somebody with that history, regardless. It's unacceptable as far as I'm concerned, and we know that Johnny Lawrence SC, who is a former NAAJA lawyer, has himself called for the board to be cleaned out, basically.
Senator, just one more thing before you go. I believe you had a difficult time questioning Aboriginal Land Council representatives at Senate estimates last week. Can you fill me in on the trouble you had?
Oh, look, the Central Land Council decided to book their flight out in the middle of the day, on the only day that's held for the Indigenous portfolio, where all land councils are supposed to be available. In fact, all department heads are all supposed to be available. It's 3 days a year, and the Central Land Council had decided to book their flight back to Alice Springs the same day. Therefore, we don't always get to go by the time allotted to us in order to ask questions. We know that this is a $33 billion portfolio that we're dealing with, that I've argued that we need an audit when it comes to where Indigenous money is being spent. And as far as I'm concerned, it's almost contempt for the Senate, and this kind of conduct I won't stand for, but it also demonstrates why we need to look further, certainly into land councils. An audit is required, an understanding of who's actually delivering and who isn't right across the board. There's no shortage of evidence as to why this should take place.